I will be talking about reducing suicide and deliberate self-harm. I am Dr. Chitramali Disilla, Director, Maternal and Child Health, Family Health Bureau. So, the suicides and the deliberate self-harm are common or at a high risk among the young people and also among the adolescents. So, in this presentation, I will be talking about the statistics related to suicides in Sri Lanka and the factors associated with suicides, and how to identify a person with suicidal thoughts, how to manage a person having suicidal ideas, and also to prevention, and describing the signs of deliberate self-harm and the causes and the prevention of deliberate self-harm. So these are common among the adolescents and the young people. So the basic concepts are the definition of the suicide and the self-harm, determinants that lead to self-harm, and also determinants which can be changed, and also the encouraging young people to take action. What is the definition of suicide? Suicide is a death caused by self-directed injurious behavior with an intent to die as a result of this behavior. So that means the person is already dead. And also it is self-directed injurious behavior. So it's decision made by the person, by themselves, by herself or himself, and also as a result the person is dying. But suicidal attempt or the parasuicide is slightly different. It's a non-fatal incident, but it is also self-directed. The person initiates the action. It is a injurious behavior, potential injurious behavior, but with an intent to die, but patient does not have a suicidal action, right? So patient is not aiming at death, but it is a potentially injurious behavior with an intent to cause some societal action. Suicidal ideation. What is ideation? Person is thinking about suicide and also considering or planning to commit suicide. So those all three are very dangerous events. So when you look at the process, right? First the person gets the suicidal idea and then you attempt the suicide, but finally the person is committing suicide. So if 100 people have suicidal ideations, only 10 will have suicidal attempts. And finally, one person will commit suicide. So therefore, all the suicidal attempts are not ending up with suicide. So we look at the statistics in suicides in Sri Lanka. So at global level, so there is one death due to suicide every 40 seconds at the global level. And also nearly 800,000 deaths every year happening because of suicides in the whole world. It is the second leading cause of death among adolescents and also the first leading cause of death among the age 15 to 49 years. So it is a huge problem among the adolescents and the young people. What is happening in Sri Lanka? So we have nearly 3,000 deaths taking place annually due to suicides. So that means our suicide rate is 15 per 100,000 population. In 2019, year before, we had 3,135 deaths because of suicides. So those are huge numbers. That means every day we have 7 to 8 deaths are happening due to suicides. I don't know in 2020 whether the numbers have come down or increase because of the COVID pandemic situation. Still, the statistics need to be updated. Male-female ratio 4:1. So males have high tendency to commit suicide compared to females. So in 2019, 2,400, nearly 2,500 men died, but female only 646. So there's a greater tendency among the males to commit suicide compared to females. And most of them are preventable. That's the most important thing. We all can work towards preventing these suicide deaths at various levels of interventions. And also it's highest among the youth. Even in Sri Lanka, we look at the age-specific suicide rates. So it's 23 per 100,000 population among the youth. So that is the highest rate reported when you look at the age-specific rates. So this is our statistics over the years. We got the world record of committing the highest rate of suicides in 1995. So we had a very high rate, and now because of the presidential task force which was established at that time, and there were a lot of policy decisions taken, banning of some insecticides and a lot of actions started by the Ministry of Health and the other ministries as a coordinated action, we were able to reduce our suicide rate. And today we ranked about nearly 20 or 22nd place in the world scenario. So that means earlier we had the highest rate, but now we have come down to 22nd place. When you look at the reasons for suicides in Sri Lanka, why these people are dying because of suicide, these are the latest statistics in 2019. Among the males and the females, right? What were the common associated factors or the reasons which are highlighted by the police department statistics? So harassment by the spouse and the family members or the family disputes had been the majority of the deaths due to this. So with our family health approach, with our MCH program, we will be able to prevent all these deaths with good family life education, with good family relationships or interactions with the family members. We will be able to reduce all these deaths. We see the maternal deaths due to suicides. So can we prevent? We should be able to. Then about the next major associated factor is the chronic diseases and physical disability. When the person is having a cancer or chronic illness, the stroke, when the person can't move about, when the person was active before, so they get the suicidal feelings, and that is the second commonest cause. The matters associated with love affairs. Still, we have nearly 300 people, especially more among men compared to females, die because of love affairs. So that means, have we got enough life skills among our people? Have you got enough reproductive and sexual education for these children or the adolescents and the youth? So those are the matters to be concerned. Depression and other mental illnesses. Generally, depression is a very associated factor with the suicide. So therefore, the treating of these conditions will be able to minimize the deaths due to mental illnesses. Economic and poverty related is another important area where nearly 180 people have died because of the lack of money, financial barriers, right? So maybe because of the COVID situation, the situation must have changed a lot, right? But anyway, the economy and the poverty is a contributory factor. So we see sometimes when they can't sell their harvest, it is seen among the agricultural workers also. Addiction to narcotic drugs, because you are mentally not normal when you are addicted. So it's very common among the males compared to females. Associated with the death of a parent or relative. So that is why it's very important to provide psychosocial first aid when there is a death of a family member. When a parent dies, when a mother dies, the child, or when the child dies, the mother commits suicide. So those are common conditions, right? So provision of psychosocial support for the family members is very important in this demise. Failure at examinations. So it has come down. I can remember in the previous years it was about 9, 10 deaths were due to examination failures. But I think 2019 it is only 2 days. So that is, we have reduced. So we have improved our life skill, and also the children are facing the exam results in a successful manner. But these two also could have been prevented very well. What is the common modes of suicides? Hanging has been ranked in the first mode right from the beginning. Then the pesticide poisoning, especially among the agricultural workers. Setting fire, again another common mode. And jump into a moving vehicle. Drowning or jump into a flow of water is another common condition. Right? Poisoning with natural substances. This has actually come down. Earlier we had a lot of deaths due to eating of Kaneru or Gloriosa, but now the figures have come down in 2019. Medicinal poisoning has slightly increased because of the drug intake. Firearm as the mode of suicide has been increased in 2019. So that we have to pay a lot of attention. As in the West, our firearm suicides are increasing. So the means of suicide is now becoming more Western type. Suicidal feelings among the youth. This is actually from the National Youth Survey, which was conducted in 2012 and 2013. You can see there were some youth, they have thought that, ever felt that the life is not worth. So that is also common among males compared to the females. And also, we have nearly 19% of the people have a suicidal ideation, especially among the youth. Ever seriously consider attempting suicide? They have attempted suicides about 4% of the total population. So that means it is significant. And also when you look at the different sectors, the urban, rural and the estate, the incidence is higher among the urban and the rural sector compared to the estate sector. Then we look at the Global School Health Survey, which was conducted in 2016. Among the adolescent age group of 13 to 17, you can see suicidal ideation in this very young group of adolescents is 9%. And suicide ideation with a plan, they have made a suicidal plan also 7%, and 7% has attempted suicide. So this is very, very significant. It is equally common among the boys and the girls. So that means our children, the adolescents in this young age group have attempted suicide. So can we prevent this? What are the contributory factors? Mental disorders always have a risk of suicides. Right? All forms of depression is the commonest cause. Then the other mental conditions like personality disorders. If the person has antisocial behavior or borderline personality, impulsive, aggression, and frequent mood changes. So those are common conditions. If a person is diagnosed to have one of these conditions, we have to pay a lot of attention. And so they need to be addressed, especially the person with aggression and impulsivity. With the slightest change in the mind, they can go for suicides. Alcoholism or substance abuse among the adolescents is another major risk factor. Schizophrenics, because they have a lot of hallucinations and different thoughts are coming into their mind, so therefore they have a high risk of suicides. And also the other organic mental disorders and some sort of rare other mental disorders are having a high risk of suicides. When you look at the other contributor factors, the physical illness, as I said before, the cancer, maybe HIV/AIDS or severe head injury, stroke. So when they are debilitated with an illness, there is a high risk of committing suicides. More males commit suicide than females. So sex is a risk factor. Age, especially among the young and also the olders. Elderly people above 75 has a high risk, again because of their debilitation, financial and economic factors related to suicides. Marital status, the single, like divorced, married, widowed or separated, and the single people they are more prone to commit suicide compared to the married and who are socially have more connections. Unemployment, loss of a job, as a high risk rather than status of being unemployed. Migration, moving from a rural to an urban area or to different districts or to a country. So once the person is migrated to another area, person might be lonely without much social support. So this is a contributory factor. Environmental factors like life stressors. If the person has a lot of interpersonal problems, quarrels with the spouses, the family members or the friends, right? So then they have a high tendency. Rejection, even if you are separated from your family and the friends, then you feel lonely, has a high risk of suicides. Loss of events, like if you lose your financial income, your job, then this is a risk factor. Sometimes because of debt or loans, if they cannot solve the loans, there are a lot of people who are affluent people also committing suicides. Bereavement. Work and financial problems, job loss, retirement, financial difficulties, and also changes in society. Sometimes people cannot, when we are involved in the politics, right? When you are involved in a lot of economic activities, rapid changes cannot be acceptable. So therefore, your mind will change and you are more prone to committing suicides. Family history of suicide, there is a genetic predisposition and family history of child maltreatment, previous suicide attempts, and also when there is an easily available method, right? But I don't know, for hanging now, we can get any sort of any sort of a mean to hang. So therefore, there's availability of a method is also important, right? So that is why it's more common among agricultural workers. The availability of pesticides are common. When there are a lot of kaneru trees in your village, the means is available, the method is available. So with slight change in your mind, with the impulsive behavior, you can access. So the prevention or the reducing the access is an effective way to prevent suicides. Exposure to media is another important thing. Vulnerable adolescents, especially who have a lot of involvement with the media, they are exposed to suicide in a real life or through media. So therefore, exposure to media or personal experience, exposure are some contributory factors for suicide. If you see a person who is committing suicide, that's why we always we have to have responsible media reporting through the media personnel, especially electronic media or print media, not to glamorize the suicidal events through media. So once the person sees these acts repeatedly, their mind can change, right? So therefore, the glamorizing of the suicidal event should not be done by media personnel. So there are few protective factors. So we will discuss these things in the prevention part. So if they have a good clinical care for you, if you are mentally disabled, or if you are on mental drugs or psychiatric treatment, if you are physically disabled, or if you are substance abuse disorder. So if you have a good clinical care, it is a protective factor. Easy access to a variety of clinical interventions and support for seeking. So you have a treatment intervention, you have a psychotherapy, and psychosocial support intervention. So if you have all these, it's a protective factor. If you have a good mental health services in your area, that is a good protective factor. Family and community support. If your connectedness is there, if the family members are well connected, and if they get the support from each other, if there are community groups which are supporting, so it's a protective factor. Support from ongoing medical and mental health care relationships. So that is again the same thing. And if your skills are good in problem solving, conflict resolution, and non-violent ways of handling disputes, so those are protective factors. That's why it's very important to build the life skills of the children as a protective factor for suicide. Cultural and religious beliefs that encourage suicide and support instincts for self-preservation. So these are very important. We have our cultural and religious beliefs which discourage suicide. Even in Buddhism, we say committing suicide is a sin. So therefore, people will have a second thought before committing suicide. I think almost all the religions are believing that way. So we just talk about a little bit of depression, because depression is a mainly contributory factor among the psychological or psychiatric problems leading to depression and suicides. Patients with depression may present with a wide variety of vague aches and pains. So they might not present with definitive diagnostic symptoms of depression. So they will come out with somatic symptoms. And also it's very difficult to diagnose when the person have another physical illness. So therefore you have to be look out for depressive symptoms. What are the symptoms, right? Feeling sad during the most of the day, losing the interest in usual activity. You are not like those days, you are very active. Now you are losing the interest in the day-to-day activities which were done before. Maybe even cooking and looking after the children, maybe in your studies or play activities. So if the interest is getting down, another person has to think why this is happening. Even losing weight or sometimes gaining weight is also seen, because you're tempted to eat more when you are depressed also. Sleeping too much or too little, and waking too early. So you get into sleep early, but you can get up very early. Wakening is seen in depression. Feeling tired and weak all the time. So you cannot do like the exercises what you did before. You get tired very easily. Feeling worthless, guilty, or hopeless. Life is not worthy. So that is how you feel when you are depressed. Feeling irritable and restless all the time. You are irritable also, right? And having difficulty in concentrating at your work. You can concentrate on your studies and making decisions or remembering things. You can't remember what were you planning to do today. Having repeated thoughts of death and suicide. So people might think that the life is not worth. So if the person has that sort of a word, you have to pay a lot of attention. and also non-specific aches and pains. Maybe shoulder pains, maybe backache, right? Or symptoms of gastric symptoms. Those are some of the symptoms that they come out with. Yeah. So we look at the feelings and the thoughts of depression. When the person is sad or depressed, the person might have a thought of, I wish I were dead. And when the person is lonely, so they say, I can't do anything alone, so I am depressed. So that is a sign of depression. Helplessness, I can't take it anymore, so I can't do this anymore. Hopelessness, I am a loser and a burden, so I am not a successful person. So therefore, you have to think of if the people will talk about these words. Worthless. The person is feeling that I am a loser and others will be happy without me. So I must leave this world. So those are some of the feelings and the thoughts that the depression person will have. So you have to pay attention and take some provocative actions to manage these cases. So how do you manage a person with suicidal ideation? So you have to first identify them. I think we discussed all these things earlier. A person having withdrawn behavior, unable to relate to the family and the friends. Person is having psychiatric illness, alcoholism, anxiety or panic status. When the person is having personality changes or the irritable, pessimism, depression or apathy, change in eating or sleeping habits, when there's earlier suicidal attempt, self-hatred, and also feeling guilty and worthlessness or shame. And also when there is a major recent death of a family member, divorce or separation, or loss of finances, family history of suicide has to be considered as high-risk people. Sudden desire to tidy up with personal affairs or write in a will. So if you are having your last will written, especially for an older person, so that may be a sign of a suicidal thought. Feeling of loneliness, helplessness and hopelessness. Suicidal notes is another important thing. Sometimes now the people are not writing notes. You can put something into your Facebook account. Put in a flag, white flag onto the Facebook account. Or put in some sort of a life is not worth living, something like that in their Facebook accounts have been seen by people who have recently committed suicide. Physical ill health, or long-term, long-standing disability is another thing that we have to consider, and also the repeated mention of death or a suicide. They might talk a lot about person who committed suicide very recently. How do you assess the risk? Factors to be assessed. You have to assess the current mental status of the person, thought about the death and the suicide. Is there a suicidal plan available? And whether the person is already having a plan with a time frame. The person's support system. You have to assess who is there to support this person. Whether the family members are approachable, family members are helpful, whether there is a good friend who can support this person, whether there is a neighbor or a teacher who can help the person. So all these things have to be assessed. How to ask? It's not easy to ask a person about his or her suicidal ideas. it should be gradually approached. You can't just ask the person, are you committing suicide? Or do you have a plan to commit suicide? When are you committing suicide? So like that you cannot ask, right? So you have to approach the person gradually, using the funneling approach. Some useful questions are like, do you feel sad? Right? First you ask about his mental status, right? Are you feeling sad? Do you feel that no one cares about you? Right? Do you feel that life is not worth living? Do you feel like, finally you can ask, do you feel like committing suicide? So you have to, little by little, approach the topic by having less sensitive questions at the beginning and coming to the hitting point at the end. When to ask? This is another important problem, right? When the person is comfortable talking about his or her feelings. First you ask about the feelings, then only you approach him, you empathize him, and you come into the same status as the person is, and then you can ask these questions. When the person is taking about negative feelings of loneliness, helplessness, etc. So when he is talking about the negative feelings, only you have to talk about the suicide. And also when the person has built some confidence about you, you believe that now I have approached him successfully, he will now divulge all the information. So the confidence building towards you, towards the health worker, towards the supporter is very, very important to proceed it further. Otherwise you will be rejected. What to ask? So once the person is really approachable and person is willing to give the information, then only you have to ask about the plan of committing suicide. Have you made any plans to end your life? Do you have an idea of how you are going to do that? And to find out whether the person has the mean, what is the mode of suicide that he is planning for, right? So don't just ask about these methods, but you have to just get some information, then you will be able to remove the means. If you know what is the method that the person is trying to go for. To find out whether the person has a fixed time frame, have you decided when you are planning to end your life and when are you planning to do it? So those time frames, if the person is very faithful, the person will come out with this. It's easy for you to prevent the act by getting all this information. But no, you cannot just jump into these questions and ask for a person who has not built any confidence on you. So therefore it's very important to leisurely, maybe it takes sometimes not in one session, maybe you have to have 1 or 2 or 3 sessions to come out with this stage. And then you can judge whether the person has low risk, middle risk or medium risk or high risk. Right? So the low risk, how do you diagnose a low risk person? The person has had some suicidal thoughts, such as I can't go on, I wish I were dead, but has not made any plans to commit suicide. He has some suicidal ideations, but not yet decided or not yet planned to commit suicide. So that is a person with low risk. So how to manage them? You have to offer emotional support for this person. That's very, very important. So you have to work through suicidal feelings and focus on the person's positive strengths by getting him or her to talk of how earlier problems have been solved without resorting suicide. So this is very, very important, right? So work through the suicidal feelings. Why he has thought of committing, at least some of ideas of suicides. So the person must be having a lot of positive strengths. Right? So talk about those things. And then you will be able to resolve him without resorting to suicide. And if there is necessary, you can refer the person to a mental health professional or a doctor. And this person has to be met at regular intervals and maintain the ongoing contact. Person might be changed from low risk to the medium later on. So therefore, it's very, very important to have a regular intervals. If the problem is maybe not taking drugs properly for a psychiatric illness, you can attend to that and provide the medicine, provide close follow-up of this patient, and then see whether the suicidal risk is coming down. So that is very, very important. That is the services that the mental health professional or any health professional or even a volunteer or a social worker can support. How to diagnose a medium risk? The person has suicidal thoughts and plans but has no plans to commit suicide immediately. They have some thoughts and the plans. This is the way I can die. I should leave this whole world. But there is no immediate plan to commit suicide. So what you can do is offer again emotional support, work through the person's suicidal feelings, and focus on positive strengths. This person must be having some positive images, right? So those things have to be addressed. Use the ambivalence, right? Health workers should focus on the ambivalence felt by the person so that gradually the wish to live is strengthened. This patient is not very uncertain, not yet completely decided to commit suicide on this particular day. So it's not immediately, but there are some positive factors that can be promoted for the person to live in. So those factors should be identified during your consultation and those have to be strengthened because the person is uncertain about committing suicide even at this moment. So all the positive things can be promoted by talking to the person and getting that person motivated to take the suicidal thoughts away little by little. And explore the alternatives to suicides. Why this person is planning for suicide, right? So maybe because of the breakup love affair, right? The person has to be educated, right? It's not the reason to end their life. If the person need a transfer to another area, even try for those alternatives. Or if the job is very stressful, try for an alternative job and to support them to get an alternative job. And also maybe with the social support, if it is an economic hardship, right? Try to mobilize the other resources to strengthen his financial losses. So those are some ways to have the alternatives by addressing the reason for suicide. And also make a contract, right, with the person. A promise from the suicidal person that he or she will not commit suicide, right, without contacting the healthcare staff for a specific phase. So you make a contract with the person. You should not commit suicide without telling me, right? So I will see you after about 2 days. So please wait for me, something like that. Because person has not yet have a high risk of committing suicide, right? So you can make a contract by giving him some incentive also. Refer the person to a psychiatrist or the counselor or a doctor and to make an appointment as soon as possible. The person has to be seen by a mental health professional. Then also contact the family and the friends and the colleagues and obtain their support. Who is the most faithful person for this person? Maybe the mother or the father or the brother or sister or a close friend or a neighbor even, right? And obtain their support to provide psychosocial support for this person. High risk person, the diagnosis, the person has a definite plan, has the means to do it and plans to do it immediately. So this is very, very important. Person has already decided to commit suicide and have prepared the plan and to try to do it immediately. So once you detect a high risk person, you have to immediately attend to this particular person. You cannot leave the person out. You have to stay with the person. Never leave this person alone. Somebody has to be stayed with this person. I can remember there were pregnant mothers who had these suicidal ideations. Once the caretaker just left for about few minutes, the mother has committed suicide. So therefore, never leave the person alone. Always there has to be some person if there is already if they have a high risk of suicide. Gently talk to the person and remove all the means, right? Or talk to the family members. If there are medicines available, if there are insecticides available, if there are guns or the knives available, right? So distance in the means of suicide is very, very important. So I can remember there were projects conducted in North Central Province by removing the insecticides and the pesticides from home to a locality where it is stored under a caretaker. The person cannot easily access the insecticides or the pesticides, so that it has to be taken from another person. Right? Your impulse act may be deferred. So that is very important to remove the means of suicides from that person. You can make a contract, right? As I said before. Contact a mental health professional. That is very, very important. Immediate arrangement for hospitalization, arrange an ambulance or hospitalize the patient as early as possible. The psychiatric social workers are there in our country. So community mental health nurses are there. So they should be able to provide a lot of support. They have a mobile teams which can go to these households and arrange for hospitalization. So you have to liaise with the mental health professionals and get the support for these persons who are at high risk of committing suicide. And you also inform the family and enlist their support also. That is very, very important. The health professional cannot work alone. Get the support of the family and the friends also. So when you are referring for a suicidal person to a health worker, when the person has psychiatric illness, a history of previous suicidal attempts, family history of suicide, alcoholism, physical ill health, and where there are no social support. So especially these persons need to be referred for mental health professionals. How to refer? So you have to always explain the person why we are referring. Arrange an appointment. You can just say, the mental health clinic is on first Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Please go. You should not refer the person with suicidal ideation like that. You always arrange an appointment. Talk to the mental health professional, the clinic appointment system, and then get a time and send the person if it is not at high risk. Convey the persons that a referral note. Referral does not mean that the health worker is washing his or her hands of the problem. Right? So I am referring, but I am still looking after you. I will see what happens to you after going to the mental health professional. So you have to follow up. So you have to see the person after the consultation, maintain periodic contact with the person. So that is very, very important. So we have a lot of resources at the community level, maybe the family, their friends, colleagues, clergy. There are clergy who are also supporting a lot. There are crisis centers which are available to manage this person with severe mental distress. And also there are a lot of healthcare professionals, mental health professionals available in our country. So those are our positive resources which are available. And also we have hotlines. 1926 is a mental health, National Institute of Mental Health 24-hour hotline. So this is available, and the mental health nurse will first support, and then if there is any issue that has to be connected to a medical colleague, so that will be connected. 1333 is another voluntary health line which is done by a NGO, CCC. So that is again available 24/7. 1999 is a suicide which is conducted by the Health Promotion Bureau of the Ministry of Health. So all these hotlines are available for any person to seek help, especially when they have impulse behavior. If they have sudden thoughts of committing suicide, just talking to these lines would save their life. So it's just a matter of telling their problem to someone else. If there's somebody who can listen to their problem, that will save a life. So therefore, we have to give publicity to these hotlines to prevent especially the suicidal deaths due to impulsive behavior. So how to approach the resources? Try to get the permission. Always when you are approaching the other resources, you have to get the permission of the suicidal person. The person has to give the consent. Then only you can contact the person and get an appointment. Even if the appointment is not given, try to locate someone who could be sympathetic to the suicidal person. And also, you have to always talk to the person before and explain about the procedure. And also, if the person is not listening to you, get a loved one to talk about. Talk to the resource people without accusing them or making them feel guilty. Enlist their support in the actions to be taken, and be aware of their needs as well. So, in summary, things to do with suicides and things that you should not do. So, always listen carefully, show your empathy, and to be calm with the person. Be supportive and caring. Take the situation seriously and assess the degree of risk. Don't take it as a minute thing. It is a serious problem. Ask about the previous attempts. Explore the possibilities other than suicide. Ask about suicidal plan. Buy time and make a contract. Identify other supports. Remove the means if possible. Take action, tell others, and get help. If the risk is high, stay with the person. Things that should not be done: ignore the situation. You should never ignore the situation of suicide. Be shocked or embarrassed and panic. You are a health professional. You are a supporter. You should not be shocked if the person says, I am going to commit suicide tomorrow. Or you should not be embarrassed, or you should not be panic. Say that everything will be all right. That is also not correct to say. So I am looking after you. Don't worry, I will look after everything. So that should not be told by you to the person. Challenge the person to go ahead. Right? So that is also not the correct thing. You cannot challenge the person to go ahead and commit suicide. Right? So, and also make the problem appear trivial. It's not a trivial problem, it's a serious situation. And don't give any false assurances. Oh, I will look after your job. I can give you this sort of income. So that sort of a false assurance should not be there. So I will try to talk to your girlfriend and see that she will be again having friendship with you. So don't give that sort of a false assurance. We don't know what will happen. So therefore you have to manage the situation very tactfully without hurting the person, and also we are always trying to get the person to take out from these bad feelings, and also swear to secrecy. So always confidentiality has to be maintained with the person, and also never leave the person alone. There has to be some support always for the person. And there are few selected measures for prevention. We have to have supportive measures, right? Sound mental health policy. We have a strong mental health policy to address the suicides, and also suicide prevention strategy is now being drafted by the Ministry of Health. Policymakers to address the social factors. So therefore, we have a lot of social support systems, right? But this needs to be strengthened, and we have to get the family and the friends support if they are depressed, to reduce easy access to means of committing suicide. So the government also has to take a lot of action, especially for the insecticides, banning of some of the commonly used insecticides or the pesticides today. So we are trying to reduce their access by means of deregistration of some of these things. An organization of support, we have community support groups which are available, volunteer groups, the NGOs are already available. We have to make use of them. To prevent media glamorizing suicides, and the responsible media reporting is very, very important. I think I told you before. So the media has to be behaved very responsibly, not to glamorize suicide, not to repeatedly show in the act of suicides. So they can report a news, but not by glamorizing the suicidal act. So those are important. We have to get positive the media support for prevention of suicide, and use of social media and mHealth. Right? So if the person has a suicidal feeling, maybe can message to someone. Right? I am feeling so bad. And then to identify the person and support that person. So those are important. Okay, so therefore social media has to be approached very positively to prevent suicide, not in a negative manner. So now we will move to deliberate self-harm. So it is self-harm is when person is intentionally damaging or injures to their body. It's usually a way of coping with or expressing overwhelming of emotional distress. The person is disturbed. That's why person is showing that the person is disturbed by way of self-harming. And also intention is more often to punish themselves or express their distress to relieve some unbearable tension, and also to show to others also that they are distressed. So it is like a cry for help. So if a person is committing deliberate self-harm, you have to take some action. So what are the types of deliberate self-harm we experience commonly in Sri Lanka? Cutting or burning the skin. So this is very common. Sometimes you see children in the same grade coming to a hospital with cutting with a blade of their hands or legs or some other parts of the body. Punching or hitting themselves. Poisoning themselves with tablets or toxic chemicals sometimes. Misusing alcohol and drugs. Deliberate starving. Sometimes they don't eat for some days. Or sometimes binge eating. and eating continuously also. Excessive exercise is another thing, right? You go on exercising for hours and hours. That is also some form of deliberate self-harm. Banging the head throws self against something hard. So this is also common among our young boys sometimes, right? Hitting the head towards a hard object. Or sticking things in the body. You stick maybe pieces of paper or some other things in the body to show that you are disturbed. So if a person has unexplained cuts or bruises or even cigarette burns, right? So you have to suspect that the person has self-harm, deliberate self-harm. So keeping themselves sometimes fully covered all the times, even in hot weather, not to show these things to the others, right? If the person is covering the head and all the parts of the body, so you might be able to open it up and see why he is covering the body. And also there may be signs of depression, such as low mood or cheerfulness or lack of motivation or lack of interest in doing work, like some signs of depression. And also self-loathing, expressing a wish to punish themselves, is also seen among them. They may be very withdrawn and not speaking to others. Signs of low self-esteem, they are not confident enough about themselves. And also they might be blaming themselves very often, right? And also there may be signs of being pulling out the hair. So those are some signs of self-harm. Why do the adolescents or the youth causing self-harm? So there may be social problems, like they are being bullied, maybe at the school, at the home level, or with the friends, having difficulties at work or school, having difficult relationships with the friends or family, coming to terms with their sexuality. They want to change their sexual behavior. So then also they might cause self-harm. Coping with cultural expectations. Sometimes when there's a arranged marriage, they want to show their disagreement for this. And also antisocial behavior, like misbehaving at school, and also getting troubles with the police. So if the police is going to take them up, they can cause, like even hitting the head into a hard object, those things can happen. How do you prevent self-harm? It's very, very important to have coping techniques. So the prevention is through, one way is using coping techniques, and also the second one is distracting from your feelings. It is a short-term measure, but that is also very, very important. Self-soothing measures have to be adopted, and also improve in the moment. Being at the present moment and improve in the moment is very, very important. Those 4 preventive strategies we will now talk about. Be positive. Right? Look at each obstacle you encounter as a learning experience. So this is like mental well-being promotion. Always be positive. Look at each obstacle that you encounter as a learning experience. Today you are getting this obstacle, this issue, this problem, but this is a learning experience for you. How to deal with it? Make the choice not to overreact to stressors and deal with them one at a time. If you have more and more stressors, you cannot address all together. You have to take one by one at a time. Take an objective view of your stressor. Analyze the stressor and see whether it is that difficult, right? What is your stress? Maybe the exam stress, maybe the missing of your life partner, right? So you assess your stress and how to deal with that stress. Communicate. Communicating is very, very important to express your feelings with someone who is close. Accept yourself and accept the others. No one is perfect, and there is always the room for mistakes. You can make mistakes, no one is perfect, right? But next time you can do better. So that way you have to always advise the people. Deal effectively with mistakes. So if you know what is your mistake, how I reacted to that person, so I was too aggressive to react with that person. Right? So when you are applying that, no, so I did a mistake, I should not get aggressed. And if I get anger, I must behave in this manner, not in the manner that I reacted. So apply that decision for in future actions. So you are dealing effectively with the mistakes that you have done in the past. Make connections with the people. I think social support is the key for coping strategies. Social support, social connectedness is very, very important. Deal effectively with successes also, right? So what you have done successfully in the past, this will build on your competence. So try to reach those successes in the future also. Develop self-discipline and control. Training to study harder in preparation for the final exam is one example, right? You have to have self-discipline and self-control. You have to train and study harder. So you have one objective to achieve now. So therefore you have to study harder. Maintenance of these coping strategies is very, very important. Continue practicing, gaining a long life of resilient living. So therefore, your whole life, once you become an adult, once you become an older person, if you maintain all these coping strategies, you will be a successful person. So those are the coping strategies, right? How do you distract? Method of distraction is important, right? So you distract your maybe thoughts, suicidal thoughts or deliberate thoughts of having committing yourself hurt. So you can distract those thoughts. How can you do it? You do some activity, right? Go to a movie, listen to a music, catch up with a friend, or do some home gardening or something. So you are distracting your thought of the self-harm. So therefore doing some activity in a positive manner will prevent continuation of these self-harm thoughts. Contributing, do some volunteer work, donating to a charity, give blood, or go and work in an elderly home, right? Some sort of a charity work will distract your thoughts. Comparison is not a good thing, but still you can compare what you were doing before and now whether you are not doing correctly. Pushing away, right? Imagine pushing the distressing thoughts or event out of your mind, right? If a thought comes to your mind, you can always push that thought away, right? Don't let your mind to concentrate on these distressing thoughts, right? We always say, right? Let those thoughts go away from your mind, right? Imagine putting the distress in a box, right? All these bad thoughts you can put it into a box and then lock the box, right? You just imagine in that. When the positive thoughts are coming to your mind, you take them, accepted. When the bad thought comes to your mind, you push them away or push them to a box and lock the box so that those bad thoughts will not come back to you. And also sensations, right? Have a hot or cold shower, right? Once you have a good shower, your sensations will be improved, right? So petting your dog or cat, always be with loving an animal or a pet is very, very important to distract your thoughts, bad thoughts, right? So those are the methods of distraction. And also apply self-soothing measures. I think we were talking about these things earlier also. Use of 5 senses to get away from compelling thoughts. Vision, looking at a scene or painting, right, which is beautiful or interesting, right? Even watching a movie, a glamorous movie is another important area to remove your thoughts. Hearing, listening to favorite songs or enjoying the sounds of waves or a jungle, the birds' noises, so those are very, very important. Smelling, yeah, wearing a favorite perfume, right, lighting a scented candle or smells of flowers, having a nice flower bunch in your room. So those are important things to distract your thoughts. Taste, having something that you enjoy eating or drinking, but not alcohol, right? And alcohol and drugs will create more problems, but still something that you like to eat or drink. Touching the pet or even going for a massage, right, will have some self-soothing effect, right? If you are very tired, you can go for a foot massage and get yourself, you can get a head massage by your husband or by your daughter, right? So that is also another way of getting some soothing measures. And also the final thing is measures to improve current status, right? So create positive feelings to give one relief from negative event or feeling, right? So you are now at the negative event, but you have to create a positive feeling. Right? So you can have imaginary thing, right? So you have a mental pictures or images, think of a place or event that generates pleasant feelings or memories. You just imagine a nice place where you can improve your thoughts. Meaning, looking for the silver lining in what you are experiencing. So always every dark cloud has a silver line, right? Praying, spiritual being to help you to manage your situation. Praying is very, very important according to your religion. You can engage in praying to have a spiritual well-being to your mind. Relaxation techniques, which include calm and deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, meditation, and yoga therapy. Those are very, very important to improve your current status. And also do one thing at a time. You cannot try everything at the same time, right? So identify the most important thing at the beginning, and it will permit to focus on one aspect and forget about the past and the future. Taking a break. Taking a break to sip a cup of coffee. So the break, stop all your work if you are distressed. And then maybe take one day leave and have a trip or something, and then come on to your work on the following day. Encouragement is very important. Encouraging and reminding one's self that you can do it. right? We have to encourage the people. You can go away with these bad thoughts. You can go away with suicidal ideation. You can do it. So always you have to support these people who have suicidal and deliberate self-harm ideation. Health system response, we have preventive sector and the curative sector, which has a lot of interventions that are being implemented throughout the country. Right? When you look at the preventive sector with the school-based life skill enhancing program, so our all children or the adolescents are getting this life skill-based education at school level. Programs for school children on study techniques, anger management, coping with stress. I think this mindfulness training at the school-based level with Sati Pasala program is another intervention that is done by the Minister of Education as well. Availability of hotlines for counseling in the preventive and also in the curative sector. Then the good parenting programs. We have adolescents and youth health training for health staff. I think that is what we are doing today. And also psychosocial well-being training for health and education staff. So that is also being promoted by the Family Health Bureau, now being implemented on pilot basis in different districts. So this is very, very important, especially we are improving the education sector to improve the psychosocial well-being of the children and also the teachers and the educational staff. Curative sector, we have the mental health services including promotion of mental well. Widespread mental health services are available in the country with more than 100 consultant psychiatrists available with their supporting staff. Psychosocial first aid for health and other sectors is being implemented, especially to manage the disaster situations. Providing support after suicidal attempts is another important area. We have decriminalized our suicides. It's no more being attempted suicide person is not being punished anymore through the health system. Screening for depression and suicidal risk, especially we do it in the pregnant mothers and the postpartum period. Psychotherapy and psychosocial interventions for mental illnesses. Many things are available in the health sector, but still there are gaps. We need to identify the gaps and improve it further. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope all of you will work out a mechanism to prevent suicides and deliberate self-harm in your areas with the support of mental health professionals and the preventive health sector in your districts or in your institutions, so that our adolescents and the youth will have a better life tomorrow. Thank you very much.